Good morning. I hope you're all doing well. So I just want to say, London at last. So I have been thinking and wanting to come here for a really long time. And a friend of mine, Adam Vincenzini, it had to be years ago, maybe back in 2009, 2010, sent out this little tweet on Twitter saying, we've got to get Deirdre to go to London. And now, so thank you, Adam, for starting the quest, and Mynewsdesk, thank you so much for making my London dreams come true. So I am very happy to be here today with you. And we are talking about the future of communications. One thing I want to mention, you know, it is such a burning topic when you're with the customs officer and she asks you what you're doing in London, and I said, I'm going to Future Comms 14. And she looked at me and said, what is the future of communications? And I didn't want to do a spoiler then and there. And I didn't want to hold up the people at the UK border either. So I'll have to go back and share that with her. But what it is, it's a journey. And as Peter said so well, it really is reflection, of course. But we're all here to find that future together. And I like to remember a quote from Joseph Campbell, an American mythologist, writer, and lecturer. He said, you enter the forest at the darkest point when there is no path. So I know you're looking at a beach scene here. I'll talk to my designer about that. But nonetheless, even if you're on a beach, when you first go to the beach, do you ever notice there's a point sometime when there's no footsteps in front of you? And that is the most exciting time because that's when you get to decide where your footprints are going to go. So we're here today, maybe because we all love PR. Maybe you love to hate PR. Maybe you want a new and better PR, and I think that's in my heart. Maybe you'd like a job, you're transitioning into PR. No matter what it is, because you're here, there's purpose, and I believe it comes with passion. So, with that said, we're all going to move forward, and we'll hear lots of opinions today. We might not all agree, but because there's purpose and passion, we're going to move forward with a new mindset and make something happen. So the journey for me, I put this picture on. I make the silliest faces when I present. But this says right here that even when I have challenges, it's still adventure. See that smile on my face? And what I'm saying to all of you is, come on, guys. This is exciting. This is what we do. But the journey for you might be different, so put your own face up there. And remember, always, that this is definitely your marathon. It is not any kind of a sprint. And I say this because once we learn everything, we love to run back and try to action it. Still try to step back and talk about it. Talk about it so that you can, there's synergy and learn more. Because when you step back and you think and you see the bigger picture, that's when things truly, truly happen. So I'm not going to say, I won't dwell on this. Yes, we've come really far. I look at this through the eyes of a student. I'm a student. Believe it or not, you all have taught me so much. You and every communications professional around the world, as I listen, because back in the days of PR 1.0, my students, and I've been teaching for over 10 years, at Fairleigh Dickinson University, the global business management students, when I was teaching the PR class, the elective class, we were very focused, the curriculum, on media and the news releases and a certain type of writing and a way that we built relationships. Suddenly, 7 years later, I transitioned over to NYU. I also teach at UMass at Amherst, and I teach at Rutgers University. And as all this transition happened, all of a sudden there was PR 2.0, and whoa, blew our minds, knocked PR on our heads. The rise of the citizen journalist, democratized contents, collaboration, the best thing that ever happened. Content, content, content. And now today, PR expanded. Opportunity, and you do, when you are optimistic, you can truly see the opportunity. So we're going to talk moving forward and pushing towards even more expansion. this is my little honeycomb diagram of what I've been pulling together by listening to all of you for the past 5-6 years, this notion of hybrid PR and taking on new roles and practices, everything that we never thought we would do before, from creating social media policies, training and governance, to being comms organizers, listening for conversations first, creating content that made sense. We also learned a new way to look at crisis and preparedness. Relationship building became analyzing through visualization. I could go on and on. Believe it or not, this goes farther. That's what today is about, is taking some of these practices which we learned through social media, and the hybrid part was getting to know our marketing brothers and working more closely with them, and also realizing, not only are we working with our marketing brothers, we're working with HR more, we're working with legal more, we're working with IT more. The CMO of the company and the CIO of the company, they kind of have to meet, and everybody underneath has to understand as well. A lot of changes. So, what's next? Okay, well, as we move through this, open minds, 3 things. Keep in mind now, all day, and after you leave, I constantly remind myself of this. Number 1, it's never about us or how we want to communicate, even though it can be painful at times. Even though there are times that we really want to fall back into older ways of doing things. I am a, believe it or not, traditional PR girl. Back in, my first internship was in 1987 with the fax machine. So I was back there. But I know that it's not about what I'm used to. It's always about the public and the organizations that you serve. Also, constantly ask the important questions, such as, what keeps the executives up at night? Or those higher ups. Maybe it's leadership at a university. It's the president and his cabinet. Maybe it's the politicians you work for. I don't care who it is. But what are those higher level, what can we answer as communicators, those challenges within organizations? How is PR connected? Because when you make the connection, PR, to the higher level goals, that's when you're moving mountains. That's when you're seen. That's when you sit at the strategy table. And lastly, remember, we're all connected by education. From higher university to associations that give us accreditation to how we mentor people. And we want to make sure that what we are educating matches the needs of the organization and also matches what students want today. You have to see my students in the classroom. At first, nobody wants to have a tweet chat. And then you can't get them off of Twitter. And they want longer tweet chats or being in collaborative platforms or whatever it is that we're doing, learning a lot through them. So think about education and making connections and how we are mentoring as an industry and what we're teaching. Okay, so we are molding, as PR and communications professionals, we are molding the modern day communicator, and PR has very much to do with this. Okay, serving the needs of the global organization is also very important when we're thinking about how the organization has changed and what they need with people. Flexibility. So people ask all the time, what are the characteristics, what are the traits of the PR professional, the modern day communicator? You better be flexible, adaptable. We need to make decisions quickly. You need speed. We need accuracy. We need to keep this in mind. We also have to realize we are serving global consumers. You think you're marketing locally or regionally or nationally. Guess what? Your brand is transcending borders and boundaries, and that's a huge change for us in the way that we think. We need to avoid multi-channel misses, which means we can't just have one way of communication. We need to integrate. And we're going to make sure that the way that we integrate our communications has to focus on what our audiences need. So where we used to be sending out our news releases, oh boy, has that changed. And we know that. Breaking down the silos is the biggest. There's no way that we can advance and grow in public relations if we feel this sense of we've got to stick together and just kind of own this. We need to branch out and work with other groups. So serving the global organization, that's what the modern communicator does. The modern communicator also understands the connected consumer. Yes, that is me with Twitter on my head, if you noticed that. Right, because I'm a consumer. Just so happens, I do sometimes feel like Twitter is on my head. I enjoy very much talking to a lot of people and answering questions. But the point is, whether you're walking around with Twitter on your head, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever the case may be, wherever you are, as a consumer, your smartphone is probably never 3 feet away from your body. That's a statistic. I'm not going to name statistics. You can go look at Mary Meeker's Internet Trends of 2014 to pull all the eye-opening statistics to know that we really have to be serving this global consumer. Who, when, where, what. Definitely not about us. So much about them. Serving our audience, which includes media. This is the big one, how media has changed. And the slide up there is data journalism. Why data journalism? Because if you think about it, and I don't know if anybody ever said this to you, but it was told to me in my beginning years of PR, think like a journalist. If you think like a journalist, you will be able to build a relationship. Guess what? Today, and the journalist is the journalist, the blogger, it takes many different forms. You need data. You need data. Journalists need data today. So what does that mean for us? PR cannot be frightened of data, number one. And number two, should we be taking data journalism classes? Do we need to understand that to connect with the media today? I'm asking you. And we'll all figure this out together, but this is a very real possibility. And I do want to give an example of using data to pitch media and to be creative. So this is a perfect example of Kingsford Charcoal, which is a Clorox company, and a client of mine, Sysomos, that came together to look for the nicest person in social media. Can you imagine? Well, do you know how much data you have to go through to find the nicest person? 1 billion tweets, not a million, not 100 million. 1 billion tweets through an interesting algorithm that found grillers, that could find grillers in profiles, and the people who said please and thank you the most, and the people who didn't swear. So for this campaign, they found Clifford Brown out of Wisconsin, who was the nicest person in social media, and created, the PR team was on the creative side of this story. It was done because, think about it, in the winter, not a lot of people are shoveling snow to get to their grills. But did this create awareness and buzz at a time during the holidays when charcoal is known in little children's stockings? It's a negative. This is a very creative pitch, and of course was happily picked up by the media and made Kingsford Charcoal happy as well. So I wanted to use that example. Think data. That's what journalists are looking for. Okay, so now together we will carve out more of the modern day communicator. Here we go. So, the convergence of media. Thank goodness. That's all I'm going to say. Thank goodness. We have a convergence here. We know we've moved beyond earned, owned, shared, paid. It's all a part of our wheelhouse now. So when we were talking before, and you saw on the slide the comms organizer, that was the communications professional who really understood it is about different types of content. I'm going to listen first to know what my brand has to be sharing and how we're going to share and where we're going to share. But it goes farther than that, because when it comes to our content, every company is a media company. Thank you, Tom. Seriously, we take a bigger role In public relations, we have to know that we take a bigger role because we're now on this creative side that you just saw, and you know that out of cons come creative awards and campaigns, but we're a part of operations too. And with operations, and let's see, let's to the next slide. We know we're going to do this because look at the study. So here's Mynewsdesk out of the April 2014 study saying that all of us are using different types of content. We're planning on doing that more. Okay, so we know it's going to be more of the social posts. It's going to be much more of the videos. It's more of the infographics. But how? Well, when I work on teams with communications professionals, this notion, and this is from Michael Brito, author of Your Brand, the Next Media Company. This is really interesting, the process. So here I am, a consultant, and I work with different PR teams all the time. And those PR teams, depending on how they're working with marketing or the digital team, could be a part of the creative strategy process. That's a great place to be. Could be a part of the writing process and the editorial process. My teams have been a part of the promotional. The other people are doing the creative and perhaps they're doing the writing, and they get this great content and they know that they have to go out and they're still pitching or building relationships or working with influencers. But there's a really great workflow. And as creative content operators, we have to know where we best fit with this particular process. But make no mistake, we are a very big part of the process. Public relations is there. Modern day communicator will take another look. Understanding the global organization. I mentioned that before. So earlier, and now we're talking 2012, maybe a little bit before, we realized that, we better start collaborating internally because it would be good if we were all on the same page. Let's use social media as our technology. And you saw companies using all different types of platforms. Well, companies today, as diverse as they are and being the nature of the global consumer, makes it even more important to become what's known as the global comms collaborator. Meaning, you could be a company, and whether you are global or you just have a diverse group of people, there's always different cultures and boundaries that you have to transcend and things that you have to understand. But especially with social media, this even goes beyond your organization into you realize that your consumer, what they need as a global consumer, and the way that you are reaching them. So there's a lot. This is our shot. This is our chance right here to take something that we do so naturally to get everybody on the same page and to have a deeper understanding of that sociology or even anthropology, the way that cultures connect. So we've got to think about this and really push the limits in our thinking to be more global. And as a global communicator, the reason why we're doing this, it's because of the research. It's not just me saying it. It's not because you agree and you think so. It's because studies are being done. And this study, which was an international pilot study, the senior level professionals, communications professionals, PR professionals in this organization, who were all, it was about 150 folks, pretty much said, you know what we need? We need people who speak different languages because we are a global organization. We need people who are much more flexible, who can adapt to disruptive technologies. We need people who are much more sociable and who can build relationships in different environments. And oh yes, of course, we need people who know social media. So there are sensitivities and values and skills and knowledge that we had better be understanding, and we hope that we're teaching through education, because all of this has to connect. If you want to be a communicator of the future, if you want your organization to expand, then you're going to start thinking about these types of values and sensitivities and skills, because that's how you get ahead. And the modern day communicator, of course, is data. Data serves our industries, our media, our public. So we were, believe it or not, we were masters of the metrics. We're pushing even harder now. So as PR professionals, we understand what we need for the C-level and what metrics are going to get them excited. They don't care. They really, really don't care about likes and followers and vanity numbers. You might want to hang it up if you're relying on just that. Not that they could be important for a community manager who wants to see progress, but when we're talking C-suite, we know it's about leads and sales and what happened through engagement. But most of all, it's that we are PR analytics engineers. And because of data, we can look at market trends. We can understand our competitors. We can see things that we couldn't tell before, so we maybe can predict the future. We're using data in our pitches. Of course, we're using data in our measurement programs. So you're going to tell me, are you the PR analytics engineer? And when it comes to that, there's no shortage of metrics. We know the metrics. Again, Mynewsdesk, out of the 2014 study, we know what we're looking at. And what's interesting here is that lower on the end are sales and lead gen. Gotta boost that up. And in order to do that, that's where we learn that it's not just about our data, it's about other people's data as well. And using sales data and using web data and using customer service data. But I like to start everybody out. If PR does have a fear of data, let's talk Google. Okay, so Google's not one of my companies. I don't represent them. Google happens to be one of my best friends, though, because of these three tools up here. You probably know Google Analytics, so I don't have to talk to you about that. But maybe you don't know Google Trends. And if you don't, please, go check it out. I'll show you something in a second. Google Data Board, awesome. They do all the work for you. Google gives you research and studies and insights where you can pull and extract and have understanding of areas maybe that you didn't know and where you better know and need to excel. So I tend to use Google a lot with the Google Trends. So for me, going back before 2005, looking at how people talking about public relations is going down. Oh, I don't like that. New media has kind of remained constant. That's the yellow line. And then you have social media on the rise. And where do those all intersect? But this helps me. This helps me to understand, to go in, to dig deeper, to say, what do we need to do so that public relations becomes more a natural part of the conversation? It's alive, it's changing, it's growing. There's adventure, there's opportunity. So Google Trends, very helpful. Research, build your own infographics through Google Data Board. That's what I do. So I can go in, I can look at studies, you can take a look. That's just a nice little infographic that I built on the consumer and local search and how important it is and statistics and why perhaps we're using it. So you can check it out yourself. But if you have any kind of fear around data, then Google will open up your eyes to quite a bit. I also put this company up here, Air PR. They're not a client. I just think they're being really bright about PR and analytics. They have an analytics platform which literally takes a look at the three things that I wrote about in my book, Social Media and Public Relations. And it was looking at how do we capture analytics so that we can really show ROI to the C-suite. And that happens in three ways. There's a direct way where you want to take a look, engagement, click to conversion, and being able to look at other data like sales, like customer service. And from that, you get great data that helps you to see how well you're doing and that the C-suite is interested. They also look at the health of the brand as compared to your competitors. So that's another wonderful way that your CEO wants to see how well you're doing in the brand health. And lastly, they do a lot around search and your news, optimizing your PR efforts and how your news is found. So PR connected to data and analytics, that is a part of the future of communications. Building relationships. So we have moved from not just analyzing, but something that I call being an agent. I call myself a relationship agent, and you can ask yourselves, are you a relationship agent? and I'm going to show you why. So a while ago, I used to use these kind of tools to map my connections or map my clients' connections to other people. Who is an influencer that's in my network that I can reach, get to know, build a relationship, and from then, who else can I reach, okay? That was before. So now, let's push it forward into this notion of being an agent. What does that mean? Oh, that means like taking a look at your whole network in context. And colors are communities. And now suddenly, I can pull up one person, get a detailed profile, but also see how that person can relate to so many other people. And as an agent, guess what I want to do? I'm sure I'm connected to these people. I want to connect them. I want to build great relationships for them. And then they can go off and build something and be a part of the future. So that's being a relationship agent. Here we are with all this great technology that helps us do that. So keep that in mind. Also, here's a biggie. The deeper knowledge of information technologies. So what does that mean? Yes, everything, every computer, every device, social media, wearables. We're talking mobile technology, going from being a PR tech tester, which I do believe all my students in my classroom, we do a tech testing exercise in teams where I give them a whole bunch of interesting apps and tools and resources, and they go and play, and then they all come back and they report, and it's in a collaborative environment. Let's go beyond that. Let's push the modern communicator so that we are tech specialists, so we can make recommendations, so that we really understand and we know. And this applies also, and we're going to take a little quiz. This applies to how we look at media as well, how we deal with media and new platforms and apps and resources. So you're going to ask yourselves, are you a tech specialist when you leave here, of course, and you don't have to share with anybody else, but I want you to take a look at this quiz. Peter Himmler is the founder of Flatiron Communications in the States, in New York City, and he also writes for Forbes. So he came up with this PR 4.0 quiz. Man, tough quiz. Did I have all the answers? Nope, I didn't. But did I go and find out? Yes, absolutely. I have 3 questions from the quiz that we'll share. So you see how you do. Rank the following by their number of users. Okay, who wants to tell me who number 1 is? Anybody? Raise a hand. Yes, Adam.
Okay, Facebook.
Yes, Facebook is number 1. Can I stump anybody with number 2? Anyone want to guess what number 2 is? Oh, who said that? Brilliant. WhatsApp. Most people say Twitter, which is number 3. LinkedIn is number 4. Pinterest is number 5. Google Plus is number 6. Snapchat had a big question mark because Snapchat, I guess we don't have the numbers yet, so we'll find out. In any case, knowing the platforms, understanding the users, guess what? It's a part of our tech role, tech specialist role. Here was another one that I thought was interesting for PR professionals, and it asked, which of the following news organizations from the list below, and granted, you can put your news organizations there, just make sure you know the answer to the question, are not using native advertising or sponsored content. This is in our wheelhouse now. I mean, the advertorial was always in our wheelhouse. Why wouldn't native advertising be there? But all of these are actually using native advertising, and we are supposed to know this. So the last question, what do we know about the following sites and apps and organizations? For me, Recode, I follow very closely. That is Walt Mossberg, Kara Swisher, formerly of All Things D. Guess what? They've got Recode going on right now. I know about them. Do you know about The Information or Now This News, which pretty much is a mobile video site? First Look is investigative reporting site. Circa. Anybody know Circa? So that's an app that kind of curates news for you. Skift, which is travel. Whether it's those or others, do you know them? Where it used to be a different set of news organizations, and oh boy, they weren't apps that we were all gathering on our devices. So this is what we're thinking about. This is our modern day communicator. So, where you still have some practices, we are pushing the envelope a little more in creative content, operations. Think about that global, whether it's within your organization or it's the consumer and what you're dealing with in those issues. You also want to make sure to be that agent. Yes, we're always going to be building, we're always going to be analyzing, but let's start becoming agents. Let's make sure that we get our data in check and move it forward. And lastly, please be that tech specialist. This makes up the modern communicator today. So I'm going to sum it up very quickly. No one said it was going to be easy. And you might be thinking, I agree, I disagree, and we're all going to talk about it today. But that's okay. It's a marathon and not a sprint. Step back, be reflective to move forward, to create that future. And lastly, we're all here for a reason, and that's to carve out the future of communication. And how lucky are we to be able to do that together and to create that synergy. So I will leave you with one very simple question that you can all ponder and answer to yourselves now or later or whenever you want to. But basically, my question is, are you the modern day communicator? So thank you very much. I have 3 minutes to answer questions. I don't know if anybody had questions or you all just want to think about it. But I'm happy to answer any questions. If you don't have questions now, then I will be around all day and happy to chat with anybody. So, very good. Thank you. Yes.
So the honeycomb.
Yes.
Could you specify if one of them are more interesting than any other, or if some areas more than others in the honeycomb?
Content.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
the creative?
where we lack most competence right now as a PR community?
I think we're going to see the most. I think we're going to see a tremendous amount of effort and initiative and growth within the creative content kind of as operators, as being so much more a part of that's a huge one. And the data. So being a data analytics engineer, that's another very, very big part of something that we're at the point of, it's here, some of us are embracing it, some are moving it more forward quickly, but everybody has to get on board because that's where you can get your standards. So I see data, content, and of course I didn't touch on crisis, but that's a huge one too.
It seems like you're touching upon sort of the right and left side of the brain. You have sort of a PR person doing either analytical stuff or the creativity stuff. And I guess that you're also saying that it's a challenge to go to the extremes, right? And
it is
probably very difficult to do both. But
it is. And we might find some who will stay in one camp and some who might go to another. I try to do both myself. I have opened up I've always been very analytical and methodical, but I feel working around creative people opens up the other side of my brain. And it's amazing when you tap into that, what you can get done. And when you're told for so long, maybe in an industry that you're not supposed to do that, no PR, you stay over here, let the digital folks or let the marketing folks take care of it when I was in a traditional agency. But when you're involved, it kind of happens for you. So it's going to be interesting to see where people want to go and where they want to take it, what feels good for them. Oh, yes, you have a question?
Yeah, do I need a mic? Maybe not in this.
I don't know.
I'm going to get back on stage. Oh, I love that.
Thank you for that, Deirdre. I'd just be interested to hear your view on some of the new kind of, maybe they're not so new now, but the model of website, the kind of the Upworthy, the BuzzFeeds, these kind of websites that are coming out that are kind of almost pushing almost a new mode of media, very, very reliant upon the audience to be the analysis and sharing the best stuff, as it were.
There was just a huge interview with the founder of BuzzFeed. So, and he was really saying about, and he doesn't do long form interviews either. So yes, this is the new way of pushing out content. And we are going to see, it's difficult because there are changes, and I think in the news they were talking about Time magazine making a transition, but yet look at how well the New York Times has done with their model. There is a shift, and it has to happen, but who's making it happen? Let's think about who's making it happen. It's the consumer who's making it happen, and younger generations that are coming up. And if you're going to stand back as a news organization or whoever you are that's creating ways to send that great content out there, you have to keep your eye ahead of things and where it's going, and you can't be stuck. So of course, based on what we see with millennials, iGen, who is Gen Z, Brian Solis, my friend, talks about the connected consumer, which is like Generation C. That's what we need to look at, and that's going to determine our news moving forward and how we're all going to want to receive our information. So those are my thoughts. I hope I answered your question. Anybody else? Oh, I see.
I've got the mic.
I've got to wrap it up. Oh, I just got the
Yeah, so very quick question. I'd be interested in your definition of content marketing.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Your definition of content marketing.
Okay, so content marketing is about creating the news, information, the story that needs to go out to your public. So as a public relations professional, as a marketing professional, I'm both, by the way. As a marketing professional, I'm looking at content marketing as a way to drive customers for leads and sales. And as a PR professional, I'm looking at it as great stories that we're creating, all different types of content. However, I connect myself to the leads and sales. So that's the way I'm looking at it. Anybody else? Oh, got another?
I don't want to be controversial, Deirdre, but
please.
Can I? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're a female inspiration, I think, and diversity is in the PR industry. And the PR industry has a bit of a thing it doesn't like to talk about in terms of diversity. I think it's probably one of the biggest opportunities that the industry has.
Huge.
And I just want to get your thoughts on the gender diversity issue, actually, that the industry has, and maybe more on the positive side, the opportunities that it has, and where it maybe is in the US as opposed to over here.
Well, it's interesting because when I started out in public relations, and my mentor, of course, was a male, there were a lot more men in PR. PR is now a lot of women. I think it's an opportunity for either gender to participate because whether it's related or not, we're tapping both sides of our brains. So I do think what I am noticing though, and this is very much tied to what we do, is that also on the media side, much less women. So women in media are going down, and of course I'm all for empowering women to have a voice and a platform. So, my feeling is that because there is so much opportunity and the changes that are taking place, balance. Like maybe we're going to see that balance happen, but it will always go to the optimist, as Peter said, those optimistic professionals who are going to roll up their sleeves and dive in and want to create change. I don't know if that's going to be on the male or female side, and maybe that's something that we're just going to have to find out, but great question. Thank you, Jonathan. Anybody else, or I'm getting that? Okay, well, thank you.